Welcome to G.I. Joe RPG Stories. In this podcast, I present after-action reports based on our game sessions playing the G.I. Joe role-playing game by Renegade Game Studios. I am David Martel, the Game Master, and this is episode 108, Smoke, Mirrors, and Motor Oil. The action picks up moments after episode 106, Horror Night on Cobra Island, Part 2. Reaper had been knocked unconscious and carried away by Zartan, who fled into an underground tunnel as the Cobra laboratory imploded. Reaper slowly regained consciousness, feeling the ground rumble beneath him. Disoriented and with a throbbing head, he could barely make out the thick smoke and echoing explosions filling the tunnel. Zartan, the man Reaper had been striving to impress for the last 3 years, was a few feet ahead, moving rubble that blocked their path. The suspicion in his eyes as he glanced back at Reaper was palpable. The G.I. Joe covert agent knew he had to act fast and convince the Dreadnok leader of his loyalty before it was too late.
"Glad to see you're finally awake,"
Zartan said, straining as he moved the rubble.
"You've got some serious explaining to do, and help me move these rocks out of the way. I don't know how long this tunnel ceiling will hold."
Tremors from the chaos above still rocked the tunnel.
"Like I said, I started to infiltrate the Joes on Cobra Commander's orders,"
Reaper said, quickly adjusting his story. He explained that he had been waiting for the right moment to capture the Joes, knowing they would eventually reach the laboratory anyway. Zartan considered Reaper's words, skepticism etched on his face. Yet, given the man's reliability and usefulness since joining the Dreadnoks 3 years before, he decided to believe him for now. As they worked together to remove the debris, Zartan gave Reaper a knowing look.
"I saw the way you look at my sister."
Reaper was taken aback, realizing he hadn't been as discreet as he thought.
To the untrained eye, it would have looked like casual glances, but not to me, Zartan said. "Gotta be careful with that one."
"I'll admit that I find her attractive. I like her fiery temper. I have no intention of hurting Zarana."
The Dreadnok leader grinned.
"Ooh, of that I have no doubt. 'Cause if you were to treat her poorly, she would kill you."
They were eventually able to clear enough debris to proceed through the tunnel and reach the exit. Once outside, they commandeered a vehicle to reach the airport and boarded the flight to Florida, then returned to the Dreadnok motorcycle clubhouse. Leather, motor oil, and the acrid scent of burning rubber mingled in the air, accompanied by the thunderous symphony of revving engines. Heavy metal songs reverberated through the club's walls. Under his Reaper persona, Lone Wolf found solace in the facades required by his covert mission with Dreadnoks. They shared his passion for motorcycles and, of course, a good brawl once in a while. Reaper spotted Buzzer at the table, sipping a glass of wine, and took a seat.
"Tell me, Buzzer, what's a scholar like you doing in a place like this?"
Buzzer laughed.
"Most of us don't like when people stick their nose in our business. I think we made that clear to you when you were a prospect."
"You mean before or after I beat your collective asses for the 10th time?"
Reaper replied, a smile forming at the corners of his mouth, as Buzzer grumbled under his breath.
"Also, you do well to remember that I'm not a prospect anymore, so you can't whine to Zartan if I cave your face in this time."
Reaper's intimidation had landed exactly as he intended.
"Stop bragging, mate,"
Buzzer said, pausing a moment before continuing.
"I have my own reasons like everyone else. What about you?"
"The money is good and the killing is fun."
Buzzer gave a nervous chuckle, and then,
I do wonder, what really happened to Chuck?"
Reaper frowned slightly.
I've told that story before,
he said. Then, after a moment,
well, you remember Gerald McHale?
That console man who got walked? Oh yeah.
As Reaper shrugged, Buzzer's eyes widened.
Why, you did that! Killing that guy up to punch! Well, perhaps we should team up and both make more money.
Reaper said nothing more. Instead, he glanced toward the hallway.
Speaking of money, I'd say it should be payday for me now.
He stood up, walked through the corridor, and paused to make sure that Zartan wasn't in his office. Then, he knocked on Zarana's door. The room was surprisingly personal. Aside from a plain desk, the steel cabinet, and a radio scanner, it was a strange space for a biker, very warm. There were framed photos of Dreadnoks at charity events, posing with local kids in Florida, lined up beside motorcycles. One showed Zarana next to a grinning Torch, holding a Bike Safety for Youth banner. He wondered if that was only for show. Were the Dreadnoks actually a benevolent presence in the local community? He was aware of such events, but benevolence wasn't the first thing that came to mind. There was Cobra memorabilia on the walls, insignias, propaganda posters. Behind her, on the wall, was a gilded dagger set with rubies, or at least they appeared to be. It seemed gold-plated, but it could have been painted. He had never taken the time to examine it closely. Maybe he should.
Reaper, what can I do for you today?
She said with a very welcoming smile.
Just here for my paycheck.
She ruffled some papers and handed him the check. As he took it, he gave her a smirk.
I'm disappointed. I thought you'd make me fight a little for it. But I know you recognize a hard worker when you see one.
Zarana laughed.
Right, or I just have better things to do.
She leaned slightly back in her chair and gestured toward the clubhouse floor.
At least you are more useful than those idiots,
she said, nodding toward Buzzer, Ripper, and Torch, alternating between practical jokes and picking their noses or the like.
You have an actual future with Cobra, not just with the Dreadnoks,
she added with a smile.
You're as close to the top as you can be within the Dreadnoks yourself.
Zarana chuckled.
Yeah, the top. It's a lonely place.
It doesn't have to be.
After an awkward silence, punctuated by subtle smiles, Reaper left the office, paycheck in hand. Even if he didn't want to admit it, their brief exchange lingered longer than he expected. But his mind was already somewhere else. Cobra believed that Gerald McHale was dead, but in truth, the former Springfield mayoral candidate was alive and well, safely tucked away under G.I. Joe protection. His survival was known only to a select few. Meanwhile, Reaper's interactions with Zarana, playful as they seemed, veiled something that could complicate everything if he wasn't careful. He had to stay focused, but he couldn't shake the feeling that sooner or later he'd have to choose between his mission and something that felt dangerously close to real feelings. You have reached the end of this report. If you would like to know more but don't want to wait for the next episode to drop, you can visit my blog at gijoRPGstories.wordpress.com. And if you like these narrated stories, please be sure to like and subscribe. Comment to let me know what you think, and spread the word to help me reach more fans. Until next time, this is David Martel, signing off.